Hey guys, it's Billy HP Auto, and I am using my new Osmo Pocket camera to give you guys a little insight on purchasing a Lamborghini. A little background on me is I own a shop. We do Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini repair. We do sales, service, pretty much everything, performance builds. And just to give you a little background, I'm just going to kind of show you around what's in the shop. This is a McLaren 12C in for service. 964, we just did a fast speed exhaust on, coilovers lowered. 911 race car, we're prepping and getting ready for track use. And then this is my actual Lamborghini here as well. Ferrari 356, S4, Boxster, race cars, Lambos, stuff like that. So we're pretty experienced with these cars, and we're pretty familiar with them, and just trying to give you guys some insight on what it's going to be like to purchase your first one. So some of the benefits of purchasing a Lamborghini based off the advice I'm about to give you can save you a lot of money, headache, and frustration. The reason why I feel this way is because I work on these cars daily, so I see common issues. I also sell these cars as well. I do PPIs on them. I have friends on them, and then I own one myself, so I can kind of explain to you the frustrations of what it's like to own and drive one, and what to look for and stuff that can be problematic. So this is my car right here, and it's got 50,000 miles on it, or 55,000, and just gonna kind of explain to you the process of how I bought it. The car is an 04. It's a Egear. It's actually had a color change. Verde Ithaca. H-ray wheels, Superleggera, spoiler, side splitters, stuff like that. This car I went into when I bought it, I knew it was going to be problematic. I'm not going to disclose of the dealer I bought it from, but it was out of Richmond, Virginia. I got the car for a really good price, considering all the additional features it has. I did swap out the wheels, the side skirts, and the spoiler. It had the Hammond side skirts and spoiler, the ISS forged wheels on it, and I've done quite a bit of service on it. The biggest issue with the car is when I bought it, I knew it was going to have a lot of problems. The way just the seller was about PPIs and stuff, he just wasn't very open to it. The PPI is the number one thing you should invest your money in. You can save so much money right off the bat by getting a PPI on a car. This car had an aftermarket spec clutch put in. The engagement's terrible. The car bucks and hops and does all kinds of unusual things when you try to take off with it. Whoever put the stereo system in it did not properly connect all the connections and wires. They pretty much just taped all the wiring together and let it roll. You can see my head unit's missing, and it has stereo in it. It had a I forget the name of it. It's the radar detector that Lamborghini, it's like specific to Lamborghini, had that in there. Had the push, I believe it's biometric push finger start feature, which was hacked up as well. Subwoofer amp was all hacked up, and I had to rip all that stuff out of the car. It was just very poorly done, and could have been a fire hazard, and you wouldn't have known that unless you knew what you're getting into by having experience with the cars, or unless you had a proper PPI done, which it could potentially cost thousands of dollars to pay somebody to fix it unless you can do it yourself. Fortunately, in this case, I can. They had this kind of just like basically just drilled in with wood screws, and there was just wiring everywhere in here, just jumbled up everywhere with open connectors. It was just terrible. That's just some of the things. Power steering racks are almost always leaking in these cars, even on a good car. Differential seals are leaking. Coolant leaks aren't too uncommon either. Coolant hoses get out of adjustment and start to leak. And then clutch is a big one too. And the earlier 04 to 05 models, gear ratios are different. The program is different on the E-gear, and they're just going to be problematic. You can get a Superleggera tune, which helps quite a bit, but you still have the gearing issues, which doesn't really bother me. In a turbo car, it's kind of nice because it will help put loads on the turbo. Another thing is to look at, it's like the brakes. As you can see on my car, you can kind of see a little bit grooved. They're about time for replacement. Pads are pretty good, but one of the things that they did is they did not correctly install the new sensor and damage the connector. So I had to basically bypass it at the instrument cluster to get rid of the brake wear light, which for me it's not a big deal because I just don't want to see the lights on my dash, but for someone that doesn't work on their own car, it can be quite a headache. Another thing too is the lower control arm bushings are wore out on this car. Kind of cool, this car was the guy's car that invented Gallardo lower control arm repair, so it's got those bushings in it, and they're still wore out, but they're rebuildable. I believe it's like $600 or so to have those control arms rebuilt if you take them off and send them to them. So it's kind of nice. I don't have to replace them. I can just replace the Durlin bushing. Another thing is the timing covers were leaking on the car. Had to address that as well. Not too big of a deal when you're on your own shop, but you gotta remove the intake and move all this jumbo out of the way to fix it. Can be somewhat of a headache. Another thing to factor in is service records. Do they have service records? Do they have the clutch snap? Do they have all of those things available for you to look at when you're purchasing the car? If they don't have a good history on the car, if they don't have records on the car, you must get a PPI. You can spend thousands of dollars. Another thing that failed was my fans on the car. The left and right fans failed because they modified the inner fenders, and they got rocks jammed inside the fans and caused the fans to seize up and overheat and fail. So far I've spent several $1,000s just getting this car back in good shape. The shocks are also wore out. It rides absolutely horrible, which I'm about to replace with JRZ RS Pro coilovers. Thanks to JRZ for sponsoring the car and the shop on that project. So that's just some of the things I can think of off the top of my head. But you really just want to pretty much get a PPI on the car. It's well worth the $500. And just some suggestions is I would absolutely highly recommend paying a couple extra dollars to go to a reputable Lamborghini repair specialist, because they're going to know all the common things that you're going to see reoccurring on these vehicles. Whereas if you're just taking it to some BMW, Mercedes shop, getting your oil changed PPIs, they're not familiar, they don't have the proper software. And most of these guys are specialists that are the higher end guys. They drive these cars every day, and they know what to expect, they know what to look for. And a guy at BMW Mercedes shop's not going to catch everything that's wrong with the car when they're doing a PPI on it, and it's going to cost you a lot of money down the road. It's just worth the money to pay $500 to $1,000, whatever it takes, to get a professional specialist experience for this platform to do a PPI on the car. The other thing is leverage. You're going to have so much leverage going into this deal if you have a PPI done. If they don't have records, you penalize them on the price. If they don't have, and as records, I mean service records. If they don't have, if there's issues with the car, you penalize them on that. There's got to be issues. There's not one car that comes to my shop for a PPI. It can be the lowest mileage car on the planet. There's going to be an issue, because if it's a low mileage car, it's been sitting for a long time, and it's going to have oil leaks and dry rotted tires and stuff like that. So there's no win-win situation with these cars. If you get a lower mileage car, unless it's been maintained, which most of the time the lower mileage cars, most of the time the owners just let them sit and they think that's okay, but in reality it's not, because you've got tires dry rotting, you got fluids that have shelf lives. It's like buying food from the grocery store and leaving the freezer for 3 years. It's going to eventually go bad. Same thing with the fluids in your car. There's all these variables that people don't think about when purchasing a supercar. So that's it for this video. I will go into more depth. I'm sure I forgot some things. So feel free to ask questions, leave comments. If you have any requests for videos on specific cars or DIYs, tutorials, anything, please just ask below. I really want to start building up the channel and feeding you guys experience from someone that's hands-on with the cars, drives them every day, and giving good content for you guys so you guys can know more about your cars and utilize it to help you in your next purchase or repairs. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.